So each class in Space Marines 2 has a plethora of different perks and build variations that you can do, but there are just some that are just flat out the deadliest builds in the game, as I like to call them. So what I wanted to do in this video is I wanted to go over my 10 favorite deadliest builds, quote unquote, that could pretty much do anything in the game and are just not only really powerful, but insanely fun to run at any given time. But anyways, let's get into it. Starting off at number 10, we're going to be talking about the endless jump pack build over on the assault class. So essentially this build is built around being in the air as much as humanly possible. Obviously it's impossible to achieve through maximum airtime all the time, but you can get pretty freaking close with perks like Zealous Blow. Zealous Blow is probably the best perk, even though yes, you got other ones that keep you alive a little bit longer, but in terms of being able to maximize your jump pack specifically, this is the best perk in the game because ground pound kills restores jump pack charge by 10%. Essentially, if you jump into a large pack of enemies and ground pound them and kill a bunch of them, you'll instantly get your jump pack back. It's really amazing in my opinion. And then you can pair that with the squad cohesion perk. All squad members' abilities recharge 10% faster. Again, this is absolutely fantastic for getting back your jump pack really quickly. You can also, if you have a vanguard on your team, which makes it even better, have them run the perk Inner Fire, which I think all vanguards should be running anyway. But all squad members can restore ability charges by 15%. Now, if you're going to be jumping up in the air constantly, there are going to be plenty of Majoris enemies that are ready to be executed. With the Inner Fire perk, you'll be able to get your jump pack a little bit faster. So again, you won't be able to be in the air 100% of the time, but trust me, you'll be in the air a lot with this particular setup. So definitely be running these two perks and then maximize that damage with the variety of different perks that you have here because it is really freaking fun. I'm telling you, it's a blast to run. Next up at number 9 is going to be the Unkillable Bulwark build. Now this is probably the best build overall for lethal difficulty because you can stay alive the longest in my opinion, and it's great for your squad as well. So obviously you're going to start off with the passive perk of giving you 20% extra health, and then you're going to have the ability Chapter Banner, which is going to restore your armor plates and your squad members' armor plates, which is great. But the main perks you want to be running are Conviction, which when your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less damage for 5 seconds. It's very situational, but it is very clutch when it does happen. You will be losing armor every so often, actually quite a bit on lethal difficulty. So being able to survive a little bit longer when that happens is absolutely fantastic. And 5 seconds is actually quite a long time in the grand scheme of things. The next thing you're going to be running is Scrambled Targeting. If you are surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you take 20% less damage from ranged attacks. Again, you're going to be surrounded by 5 or more enemies quite a lot on lethal difficulty. Maybe not so much on the lower difficulties, but definitely on lethal difficulty. So this is huge when you're getting shot at from a distance by random Tyranids or some of the chaos enemies. It really does make a big difference. The most important perk though for this build to make it really work is the Armored Reinforcement perk. Essentially, this makes non-finisher gun strikes also restore armor. So you don't even have to kill anything. If you get a gun strike on it, it's going to restore your armor. It's absolutely fantastic. You'll constantly have armor, which is one of the main things that keeps you alive so much in this game. And then obviously you're going to be running Advanced Conditioning, Contested Health 50% faster, pretty standard on most Bulwark builds. And then you're going to run over here, you're going to take Invigorating Icon, which actually when you drop your banner, it's going to make your squad regain all of their contested health. Absolutely fantastic for keeping you alive. And then you're going to jump over here to your signature perk, which is going to be Armored Advance. If armor is remaining, you do not lose control upon heavy hits and you cannot be knocked back. Again, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is, because one of the big things that gets you killed the most in this game is losing control of your character, because when you're staggered, it feels like you take forever to get up. It feels like you take forever to regain control, and by that time you're already getting shot at by a bunch of enemies and a lot of damage is being taken to your character. So with that paired with the armor reinforcement, you're going to be surviving a lot with this build, because you're going to get hit by these sniper shots. You're going to get hit by these unblockable attacks that you that you forget to dodge because you're trying to parry, right? The little red icons. So again, this keeps you alive a lot more than you would think. So it's definitely one of the most clutch things. But yeah, this is by far one of the best builds in the game for lethal difficulty. But again, you'll stay alive a lot longer once you master how to do this. You primarily get your source of damage from gun strikes and just overall, You're not going to get a lot of damage from your melee attack, but you will be doing a lot of gun strikes with this. So yeah, just this is such a good build in my opinion. All right, so next up at number 8, we're back on the assault class. We're going to talk about the Gun Strike King build. Now, the main thing with the assault class in general is you're going to be getting a lot of your damage source from gun strike abilities. As much as I love the ground pound ability, gun strikes is your primary source of damage, and assault is unique because it has the only perk in the game that increases your damage on gun strikes, because if you didn't know, gun strikes don't actually benefit from secondary damage at all, which is pretty unfortunate in my opinion, and I think they should. So that said perk is called Proven Efficiency. All squad members deal 50% more damage from gun strikes. Just absolutely ludicrously, stupidly good for this class and just any class in general. Any assault that's going to be running this is going to be really well liked by their squad, because this is a really good perk overall, because you're constantly gun striking in this game because you're going to be parrying like crazy, dodging like crazy. This is just a really good perk. But they also have this added survivability perk that pairs well with gun strike called Armored Reinforcement. Non-finisher gun strikes also restore armor. This is the only survivability perk that assault has to keep them alive, because as you're gun striking and doing your thing, you're going to be also regaining armor just from doing any non-finisher gun strike. It's absolutely fantastic. So if you don't kill something, you're still going to be getting armor back, which is huge, which allows you to go into more ground pounds. And this is where the synergy of this build really comes into, from gun striking, keeping your armor up, doing more damage, and then ground pounding as much as possible. So yeah, just overall, this is the best build for the assault class, is the Gun Strike King build. So at number 7, we're going to talk about the max protection heavy build. So essentially, this build is giving you max protection. It's keeping you alive as long as possible, while also outputting a crap ton of damage for what it can do. And the reason why I chose the multi-melta particularly is because I think it pairs well with the first perk of this particular build. But again, you can run the plasma incinerator if you get good with it, and the heavy bolter. They both work really well, but the multi-melta is just so good at ad clearing, especially on lethal difficulty. So starting off with the perks, we're gonna talk about Iron Halo for a second. So this basically just blocks all range damage. Pretty self-explanatory. It's one of the best class abilities in the game. And then you also have this one here. When your Iron Halo is active, all squad members within 50 meters take 10% less damage. This works for you. Absolutely fantastic, because you're going to be using your Iron Halo quite a lot. So this first perk, Restoration, and the reason why I chose the multi-melta, actually, when you kill 10 enemies in rapid succession, you restore 1 armor segment. This has a cooldown of 15 seconds. That 15 seconds is nothing. You're going to be constantly regenerating your armor segments, because on lethal, you're going to be fighting a lot of hordes of enemies. So this is absolutely fantastic. The next perk is going to be really simple. Fortitude increases your health by 20%. Really good perk. Then we come over to Encompassing Aegis, I believe it's called. I can't pronounce that very well. All squad members take 20% less damage from ranged attacks. Really good perk. When you pair that with the passive ability you get from using Iron Halo, you're taking 30% less ranged damage. Absolutely fantastic. Now we have Adamant Will. After your Iron Halo deactivates, you take 20% less health damage. Really good if you lose your armor in a particular situation. You can pop your Iron Halo for a second and deactivate it, and then boom, you're taking 20% less damage. It's really good. And then we have this one right here, the Obertrit Bastion. I just call it Bastion. Iron Halo's durability is increased by 20%. Makes your Iron Halo stronger. So overall, this is how you become your maxed protection version of a heavy class character. It's really good on lethal difficulty. You will die a lot less with this particular build. So if you're struggling with staying alive, run this, because you will die a lot less. You can manipulate Iron Halo to really work for your benefits, take less damage at times. Next up at number 6, we're going to talk about the Maximum Scan tactical build. This works with any primary in the game. Just use whatever you feel like is best. Most people are probably going to use the grenade launcher gun, but again, if you want to use other guns, you can. But the primary things we're going to do is try to maximize this OPEX scan to make it last as long as possible, or make it as strong as possible, depending on what you want to do. So essentially, the build is centered around the OPEX scan, which any build with the tactical is, because basically when you do the scan, scanning reveals and marks enemies in the selected area for 8 seconds, making them more vulnerable. Absolutely OP. This is really strong and makes it so easy to kill enemies. So we want to maximize this thing and make it as good as possible. So one of my favorite perks to run on this is the vital data, because when you scan extremist or terminus level enemies, your Oxpec scan gets instantly recharged by 50%. This makes it come back so much faster when you're fighting terminus enemies, especially when you got those big bosses at the end of missions. You're going to be able to kill them so much faster because you're going to have scans constantly on this thing, which is absolutely fantastic. You could also run priority targeting. And basically, this makes your scan last 8 seconds longer, which the base time frame is 8 seconds, but it also makes your OPEX scan ignore Minor's enemies. I don't like this one as much, but it is really, really good if you want to prioritize killing Majora's enemies. So getting that extra 8 seconds is huge, so it's absolutely really good. But the bread and butter is by far battle focused, because every time you perfectly parry something, it's gonna get marked with an OPEX scan, so you constantly have enemies marked, especially Majora's enemies, for you and your teammates to do more damage. It is absolutely huge, so that way if you don't have your ability, your big ability available, you'll have your parry to be able to mark things for the most part. And then lastly, we're going to go with expert timing. Enemies marked with the OPEX scan take 100% extra damage, but the duration is reduced by 4 seconds. Now, if you pair this with priority targeting, essentially you're going to have a 12-second OPEX scan instead of a 4-second one that you would normally have. But typically, I like to run vital data more and just deal with the 4 seconds, because essentially they stay marked. It's just the scan will go away, so it's not constantly marking people. So you got to take the give and take from there. You also have this other concentrated fire one, but I don't like this one as much because when they leave the area, they lose their mark. It's kind of silly in my opinion. This one does the same thing and even better in my opinion. So this is how you maximize your scan to make it better. Honestly, this is pretty standard to run the tactical this way, but just saying that if you want to run any weapon with this build, this is one of the best ways to do it in my opinion, and it makes it by far one of the strongest ways you can make your OPEX scan do that much more damage toward any enemy in the game. All right, so next up at number 5, we have the unlimited camo and the unlimited ammo version of the sniper build. So essentially, this is going to be centered around a couple of different things, but the primary thing is the last fusel sniper. And basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make the last fusel sniper's radius as large as possible. So we're going to dive heavily into these radius increasing perks. We got 3 of them. And then also we're going to jump over and grab this increased capacity perk right here at the end. So the way you make your weapon basically have unlimited ammo is through this perk right here called lethal efficiency. Killing 1 or more enemies with 1 shot from the last fusel restores its charge by 1. You'll be able to spam this into a crowd of enemies, especially on lethal difficulty, and constantly have charges restoring to your last fusel. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good. So the way you get your actual unlimited cloak is from a few different perks. So we're going to talk about the cloak itself. Basically, the reason why you want this to be back as much as possible is the fact that it does increase your damage when you first unveil yourself. So basically, when you fire your first shot or do your first melee attack, you'll do a significant amount more damage for that first one. And then you have the passive ability, which headshot damage is increased by 10% overall for the class. Absolutely fantastic. So the first perk we're going to be really focused in on is called Squad Renewal. A headshot kill restores ability charge by 10%. Pretty self-explanatory, but the thing you're going to have to focus on is you're going to have to put enemies in executable states like the Majora's enemies, and then you're going to have to selfishly take that headshot and not leave them for an execution. So you're going to want to do that because this will get your ability charge a lot faster. And next we're going to jump over to the perk Renewal. A headshot kill restores camo cloaks charge by 5%. So this is just going to chunk restore your camo, so it's really, really nice. It's just a really fantastic ability to give you constant camo recharge. So if you get into the habit of going into camo and trying to shoot as quickly as possible, you'll constantly have your camo coming back. And then lastly, we have the signature perk called Evasion. A perfectly timed dodge gives you basically a free camo cloak that activates for 5 seconds. The cooldown is only 15 seconds. So again, if you prioritize getting dodges, you'll be going into a free camo, which allows you to get more headshots. And if you don't have your camo back, you'll be able to recharge it with headshot damage and killing things with headshots. Again, this is by far the best way to stay in camo, because the more you stay in camo, the better you're going to be as a sniper, and the more ammo you have, the better you're going to be as a sniper. Next up at number 4, we're going to jump over to the bulwark class again, and we're going to talk about the defensive advantage build. This is really simple. We already talked about the bulwark in the previous section, so we're gonna dive into the perks right away. Basically, everything is centered around this perk called Defensive Advantage. A perfectly timed parry creates a shock area for 5 seconds. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This does so much damage. It's one of the most potent things in this game. It will do a ton of damage to Minoris enemies, absolutely one-shot them really quickly. It will do a ton of damage to Majoris enemies and Extremis enemies, put them in an executable state, allowing you to use Invigorating Icon from the banner. It's just absolutely fantastic, and you can make this even stronger with Shock and Awe, which enemies in the shock area take 25% more damage. You can actually, I believe if you're using the shock grenades, actually this will work for those to make them a little bit stronger as well. So if you throw it in a shock grenade, this will make the strongest as well. So going with this kind of shock area damage build for the bulwark is absolutely stupid. It's very, very strong overall in my opinion, and one of the best it's one of the best builds in the game as a whole, because it does so much damage and you're constantly in close quarters, you're constantly parrying. So this just benefits you so much that it's really the only way to truly get a offensive machine from the bulwark class. So at number 3, we're going to jump back over to the heavy class, and we're going to talk about the all plasma build. Essentially, this is how it sounds. You're going to be running the plasma pistol, and you're going to be running the heavy plasma incinerator. If you want to know the perks I like to run for these, I run these perks for the incinerator. I also run the beta build for this, and for the plasma pistol, I run the liberation build for this particular one to maximize my ammo as much as possible, and then I run this particular perk set right here for maximizing the ammo as much as possible and the damage. And for diving into the perks, I've already gone over the Iron Halo, so we're going to jump right into the thermal boost perk. When a ranged weapon is 50% overheated, increases damage by 15%. The plasma incinerator and the plasma pistol already do a stupid amount of damage when they are charged up. I mean, the plasma pistol basically does as much damage on normal shooting as the plasma incinerator, and then the plasma incinerator is probably the most powerful weapon in the game in terms of its charged ability. It is absolutely stupid and will chunk extremists and terminus level enemies health all the way down and kill them so fast. It's absolutely stupid strong. So increasing this by 15% while you're shooting it, when you get up to that 50% threshold, is huge. And then right here, versatility. This perk is actually a little broken for the plasma pistol, because basically after switching weapons, your secondary does 20% more damage. Now, the key thing is that this effect only lasts until reloading or switching back to your primary. So the plasma pistol does not reload. So this perk is always on with the plasma pistol, because when it cools down, that's not counted as a reload. So you're gonna have constant 20% more damage on your plasma pistol. So this is absolutely broken for the heavy. So the plasma pistol is really, really strong on this particular class. And then obviously you're gonna run additional supplies to give yourself more ammo, because this gives you 25% more ammo overall. And yeah, just this class is just so freaking good. With the all plasma build, it does a ton of damage. You're going to be doing more damage as you overheat your guns. You're going to be doing 20% more damage with your plasma pistol all the time. The all plasma build is one of the strongest builds in Space Marines 2. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. So next up is going to be a short one, because we're going to talk about the Immortal Vanguard class. You can run whatever perks you want, because it really doesn't matter in the end, because the only perk you care about is Adrenaline Rush. Melee kills of Majoris or higher level enemies restore health by 10%. It's absolutely broken. It's one of the best perks in the game, if not the best perk in the game, because you just get your health back every single time you kill a Majoris level enemies. You're basically unkillable. You may drop down in health, but you can just recover it very quickly. You don't need to take stim packs. Just let your teammates have them, because you're going to be able to kill Majoris enemies, and then with the grapnel launcher, you're flying around, getting executable enemies and killing them. So like I said, you can run whatever you want with the Vanguard class. I've got a full video talking about the strengths of this class, but really, at the end of the day, you want to be immortal, run this class with Adrenaline Rush. You're going to stay alive pretty much on any difficulty consistently. It's the most, has the highest survivability of any class in Space Marines 2. And lastly, at number 1, of course, we're going to be talking about, no surprise, the deadliest build of Space Marines 2, and that is the Unlimited Grenade Launcher Tactical build. This is centered around quite a few things. Basically, you're taking all the things I talked about with the maximum scan build that we just spoke about a minute ago, but we're just going to be putting it on steroids. So everything is built around this weapon right here, which is the bolt rifle with the grenade launcher attachment. It's really simple. You get a grenade launcher and it does a ton of damage. You can do things right here to make it stronger. And the thing that makes this particular build even more broken, and why I call it the unlimited grenade launcher build, is this perk right here, which is to me the second best perk in the game, called Emperor's Vengeance. Killing Majoris level or higher enemies restores your primary weapon's ammo by 1 magazine. That is extremely important, and this cannot exceed the maximum ammo capacity. Cooldown is 30 seconds. So the reason why 1 magazine is so important is that the grenade launcher shots count as 1 magazine. So you basically will kill a Majoris level or higher enemy and you'll get a full magazine of grenades back, so you'll constantly have grenades to be able to shoot, and these grenades do a ton of damage. You throw in the scan with this, the OPEX scan that you're gonna have, oh my god, you're doing stupid amounts of damage to anything in the game. You're gonna be killing terminus level enemies like crazy. You're gonna be killing extremists and Majoris enemies like crazy. This is by far the deadliest build in the freaking game, and it's not even close. All right, so that's my list of all the deadliest builds in Space Marines 2. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and if there's any particular builds that I missed, let me know what they are down in the comments below. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.